Today on the Revamp podcast, our guest that we have with us is Ryan Jones. Ryan is from the Philadelphia market, and he's a real estate investor that, like many of us, does a little bit of everything, but he specializes in buy and hold in the Philadelphia, Camden, and Norristown markets specifically. And he's been able to amass a huge portfolio even this year when a lot of people thought that the BRRRR strategy is dead because of interest rates. We talk about how he's still been able to acquire and continue growing his portfolio, doing cash out refinances still on a lot of his deals, and to be able to keep the ball rolling in a market where a lot of people think that BRRRR is dead. So if you, like a lot of other real estate investors, have been banging your head against the wall, trying to figure out how you can still grow your rental portfolio in the interest rate climate that we're in, this episode's for you. If you're new here, make sure to like, follow, definitely subscribe, comment anything that you would like to see below. Enjoy the episode. Overall, what is your outlook on the real estate market right now?
So, we do a little bit different than you guys do. So we don't do a lot of wholesaling. We do mostly buy and holds. We do mostly flips. So right now it kind of sucks for us. We have to buy deals super deep to have them cash flow at all.
Yep.
So that's kind of our struggle right now. We have been able to figure out like a 30-year fixed product that we can get our rentals into, which it just helps out with extending some of the life of the loan, and we don't have to worry about insurance or taxes, which is, I know it sounds like
What do you mean you
thing.
don't have to worry about them?
So when they're 30-year fixed, the mortgage company, Shell Point or whoever, they take care of it. So I can't tell you how many times we get like stacks of tax bills from Norristown and Camden and Philadelphia. They like don't fit in the mailbox. So to have someone else deal with all that and not have to take them and scan them and coordinate getting them paid and all that is, it sounds like a little thing, but it's super
massive.
dope. Yeah,
Yep.
I love it. So it's hard. We've come across a couple of like new things we're trying where we can buy them deeper. We've been working a lot with squatter properties. We've been working a lot with like we've got 3 rooming houses we're going to close on in Philly.
Okay.
So those seem like they're going to be really good. This one guy renovated 80 of them and something went wrong. So he's selling them at like a pretty deep discount. We're going to be buying them. They rent out between $750 and $900. So we get between like $2,100 and $2,300 for each one of these properties.
And how many are you buying?
We just bought 3 to test the waters. So
Okay.
we close on them on the 6th. 4 of the 9 units are already rented. So we got to rent the other 5 out.
Okay.
But each one of these buildings, as a 3-1, they would appraise at like $165. We bought them all for like $92 each. But we think they're 3-bed, 3-bath. So each room has its own bathroom with a stand-up shower, washer-dryer connection, and then the kitchen is commune. They all have their own mini splits. It's all like they're fully renovated top to bottom.
Okay.
So people seem like they like to live there. You either get tenants that stay for 6 months or like 2 years. That's kind of like the way it looks.
Got it.
We're going to target a lot of students and just like younger working professionals in these areas. So it's like 19143, so the King's Essing and Elmwood Park area. That's where all 3 of them are. But they seem like they're going to bring in a lot of money. So a 3-bed, 1-bath over there is $1,350, $1,450
For a normal
for like
rental, you mean?
Yeah, for a normal long-term rental.
Okay.
And these we're looking at like $2,100, $2,300. So
okay.
It's one way to kind of get around it, and also the squatter way is another way to get around these awful interest rates.
Definitely.
Because you can buy them so deep. Like nobody wants to deal with it. People don't know how to file ejectments. They start the process. It's an absolute nightmare.
Well, I definitely want to talk about that, about how you're getting them out and everything. But real quick, so like, would any of those deals at $1,350 with what you're buying at and what you're gonna finance, they would be a loss or they'd be a break even?
They'd be a loss.
They'd be a loss.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
does that worry you at all? That like, I mean, are they zoned for that?
So if they're zoned RSA 5, you can have 3 unrelated people under the same roof by code, by law in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So one of the attorneys that we use has already defended this in court 4 different times. He's the one that kind of brought these deals to us. So we're very confident that he's going to be able to do that for us again if it happens. Our property manager on board, signed off on it. Our lender on board, signed off on it. I talked to the appraiser and the underwriter. So I think we're good to go.
Damn good about
I feel good.
Because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Like under normal eviction situations in Philly, they're challenging to begin with, and I want to hear about how you're getting people out. But in like a rooming house, I feel like that could add a whole nother layer of complexity to getting somebody the fuck out.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So like, there's 3 separate leases. But if you have, like, say it's an actual ejectment and the sheriff's coming in, like that's not great for the house itself, right? Like people don't want to see that.
Yeah,
So,
especially if they're kind of roommates, right? And they're living really in close proximity.
yeah. So again, each room, shower, bed. So each room has its own mini split as well. It's like a studio apartment and then a shared kitchen. But it's all laminate floors, all like the kitchen's all granite, everything like super nice tile in the bathrooms and stuff like that. So they're done very well. So that people want to stay for a bit longer. We have the same philosophy with our like long-term rentals, is that we'll go in the Camdens and the Strawberry Mansions of the world, and we will do super high-end renovation, because I think one thing people don't really talk about is that the turnovers kill profit, right? So you have a 1-year tenant, and then you do a turn. If it costs you $2,000, say you were making $150 a month on it, you made $0 that year, right? Or you lose a hot water heater. When if you do all the reno on the front end, you can put that in your cost basis, and then you can kind of like depreciate that over 27 and a half years, instead of when it goes, it's like an expense against the property. So like it makes a lot more sense if you have like private money to do it on the front end than on the back end. I know you can depreciate hot water heaters and appliances over 5 years or 7.5 years, something like that. But I would just rather wrap it all up in the front and then be maintenance free, capital expenditure free for the first 5-6 years.
I love that.
Right? And then do it very well and keep tenants for 4 or 5 years. And if it's Section 8, which we do a lot of, we can jack their rent up every single year. The government will let us do that. If they're regular tenants, cash tenants, we'll do like a $50 increase every single year. And if we inherit tenants, the first thing we do is come in, fully renovate, and then agree on a rent increase with them like this. So that's our every single property we do. That's what we do.
If you inherit tenants, how are you going in and doing like a full rehab while they're living there?
Yeah, they don't have a kitchen for 2 or 3 weeks.
Really? Okay.
But
you're just telling them up front, you're being transparent. It's like, hey, this is what's on the table. You can either deal with it or get out.
Right. So, no, knock it out. Here are some photos of some renovations we've done. Do you want your house to look like this? And the reason I'm doing this is for an appraisal, right? Like I want to get the appraisal value up so that I can pull money out of these rentals, right? I never want to spend $1 on a rental. So if I get appraisals up, I can BRRRR them and just do that over and over and over again. It keeps the tenant happy. They're going to stay longer. I can get more rent from the tenant. But the caveat is you're not going to have a kitchen for 2.5 weeks, right? We're going to install cabinets day one, flooring in cabinets day one, but then they got to template this granite. It's going to take 2 weeks to install. And we might be a couple days late getting back to it. So is that something that you're okay with? And 100% of the time they say yes.
I love that.
Yeah. So
That's
we've
awesome.
never had anyone say, I'd rather live in what we've been living in for the last 5 years. It's like, oh my God, you're going to make my house amazing?
Yeah. Sounds
Please
awesome.
and thank you. Like, I don't have to spend a dime on it. Like, and they don't know there's ulterior motives, but like they're happy, we're happy.
Even if they did, they wouldn't give a crap because it's not affecting them at all.
But
actually, it is in a positive way. So
everyone wins, right? So like literally everyone wins. Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's freaking cool. So for perspective, like you're doing everything right and you have to, because to your point, like I see it all the time with guys that own like 1 or 2 rental properties. They will have that situation where they're only really cash flowing like probably $50 a month, but they're like, well, no, it's like 400, but they're not taking into account, maintenance or CapEx or any of those other things. Like their true free cash flow is actually like $50 a month or something. Then they do a turnover and it wiped out their profit for probably 2 or 3 years.
Right.
But they simply don't look at that and don't account for it.
Of course.
So they're only looking like through everything like with rose-colored glasses and not being honest about everything. But you can't do that at scale. You can't. Like you would crash and burn and go bankrupt really fast. So
there's one tool that we love. It's dealcheck.io.
Okay.
I run every deal through it to this day. It's very conservative, right? So what they say, I have my own calculator, I have the deal check calculator, and it's always somewhere in the middle, right? So,
Love it.
But if it passes with flying colors through deal check, it's a go from us.
Love it.
So if it makes at least $200 a month of free cash flow off deal check, we're going to buy it every day of the week because we keep 10% for property management, which we pay 7%, and then we keep 5% for maintenance, which for the first 5 years is normally 0%, and we keep 3% for capital expenditures, which it's 0 for 10 years for us, right?
Yep.
So it's very conservative on that side.
So you know that you're going to be, it's going to be a buy.
Super fine, yeah.
Which, by the way, for anybody listening, you now know this man's buy box. Where do you buy? So like legit, if people want to send you stuff, so you're all over.
All over, yeah. So love Norristown, love Camden. So Camden city proper, not the county of Camden. And then in Philly, we're literally all over. I love Grace Ferry. So 19146, 19147. We're looking heavy in there. I'll give a little bit of a secret out. The old oil refinery is turned into the Bellwether district.
Okay.
So the Bellwether district is going to be like a huge tech park, and they've already demolished the whole oil refinery, and they're going to start building. And I think they have a lot of work to do on the riverfront. And probably 5 years down the road from it actually being a thing. But work has started. And if you look what happened at the FMC building and the Roberts building at like 23rd and South, properties over there went from $130,000 to $550,000 over the course of 10 years, right? So like we're buying a lot of houses right now that may not make a ton of sense in Grace Ferry, thinking they will down the road. So like,
got it.
As long as they cash flow now and we're cash positive and we're playing the appreciation game, and then down the road we can flip them for a huge profit. The other thing about Grace Ferry is Section 8 just jacked the rates up for 19146, right? So like through the roof they were.
I know they jacked them up like everywhere, dude.
They jacked them
all
up
over Delco.
Everywhere. Yeah, they definitely did. Norristown, they did the same thing. It looks really good up there. But it went from, I think it was 1560 or 1660 last year in 19146, 2600 this
Holy
year.
Crap.
So I just bought a house on Stanley Street that short sale, amazing, but it makes so much more sense. We're not going to get 26. We might get like 21, 22, but
wow,
it makes the area make sense now. Because they've been trying to turn that over for a little while, and it just never. There's the 25th Street Bridge, which is a raised train track, and anything kind of west of that is just like no man's land.
Okay.
And they're starting to sink some money in out there.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Wow, man. Holy crap. So how many, like percentage-wise, how many of your units are Section 8 versus cash tenants?
So we kind of we got lucky and just fell ass backwards into this, but we try and keep enough Section 8 to cover PITI. So as long as the government can pay my mortgage, my taxes, and my insurance, everything else can be cash and upside, right? Because
so you mean like the whole nut. So if your monthly mortgages are whatever, 50 grand or whatever, you want to have at least 50 grand of Section 8. Okay, so got it.
Or housing authority payments that come in to offset all those costs.
Makes sense.
And then everything else can be cash, right? Because the government's going to pay my money no matter what. Like COVID hits or whatever, it's not a big deal, right? Like the world shuts down again, it's like not a big deal. So like
unless the government shuts down again.
Right.
They did for a little.
They did for a couple days. A little bit. But we still got paid through all that. So like, and there's so many programs through second. Like we work with Light Up Your World. We work with CADCOM. We work with CGP&H, right? Like there's a lot of companies out there that will, in New Jersey. So Light Up Your World, they will do all of your painting for free for lead-based paint testing because Jersey's going to make it a law, just like Norristown and Philadelphia, starting 2024, it is mandatory. You have to have your lead certs.
Okay.
So you don't have that right now. So Light Up Your World is a free program, government funded, that will paint all of your houses to make sure you pass lead-based paint testing.
You as the landlord, they will paint your houses.
For free.
Damn.
So there's a lot of those out there. There's a lot of HUD programs that people don't know about, that they don't research, they don't look into, that save you an insane amount of money. Because you get a lead-based paint test, like $275, you're getting 30 of them done at one crack, right? The re-inspections are $175.
Okay.
So we just had 2 that failed, and we reached out to Light Up Your World, and they're like, don't worry, we're going to take care of this, and we're going to take care of the fee for the re-inspection. This should never happen.
Wow.
So it's like, it's almost a guaranteed way to pass on the first shot or pass no matter what. And then we're doing it ahead of the game, so Camden's going to be happy with us and blah, blah, blah. So,
Dude, that's huge.
yeah, it's all free.
Gold nugget right there,
It's
man.
all free, yeah.
Holy crap. That's massive.
Yeah. So anyone that has it, Brian Wingate, he's the man.
Yeah.
Light Up Your World.
Okay. Well, you heard it here. So take it a step back real quick. So you have this massive portfolio. You've been in this space for a while. You're crushing it. You're in multiple states, right? How did you all get started in that? Like,
Yeah. So I like graduated college and then I moved to Europe immediately. So I lived in the UK for like 5 years, and over the course of those 5 years, like obviously everyone was working and stuff. My childhood friend, best friend, Dave Sawyer, he I know you know Dave,
Yep.
he sold us a couple houses. He was working with this guy, Jason Shorin, who's a Delco guy.
Yep.
I'm sure everyone knows him as well. So Dave was running property management for him. And, you know, we would keep in touch once a month, once every 2 months while I was over there, and just be like, when you get back, we got to do this. When you get back, we got to do this. When you get back, we got to do this. So I got back, and, like, literally within the first month, we were up in Norristown looking at houses. And that's how it all started. We bought our first house, 532 DeKalb. It's a commercial mixed use in, like next to the courthouse in Norristown.
okay.
Bought it for $90,000. It was a train wreck. Just like couldn't have gone worse. And so very, very happy we didn't pull the plug at that point, right? But we had like a $30,000 running budget. I think it was 70, right? There was one point that I had $12,000 in credit card debt and $4,000 in my account. And I was working a W-2 full-time job, so it was like, okay.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
you know, there
At
was
least you had money
stressful-
coming in.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. So it wasn't like we were still all in, though. I mean, but there was a lot of late nights and long weekends of just us up there doing the work ourselves because we were pretty broke at the time. But yeah, it all worked out. We still have that house, right? We've actually never sold a house in Norristown.
Really?
Yeah. I love that area. I really do.
I know you do.
It's the
I know
best.
you do.
So yeah, but that's how we got started. And then we literally the next house we bought it was a duplex, 3 triplex, and a single family. And that was all in one shot.
Really?
Yeah.
And how long after that first deal was that package?
Probably like 3 or 4 months. Like we were able
Not long,
to
okay.
pull a lot of money out of the comp. Like it appraised really well.
So how did you fund that first deal? Did you guys like go halves on it or yeah?
So we went halves on the first deal. So
Okay.
we were, again, we knew various people in the space and they were able to point us in the right direction. We were using the Freedom Credit Union, who at the time, they're going to start lending again in December. They're great.
Okay.
A little more flexible than some of the bigger banks. So we were able to pull a lot more money out of the back end. The interest rates weren't terrible. I think they were like 5.75 or something like that. So
Okay.
And it was a two bed and commercial on the first floor. So it brought in like pretty good cash flow as well. So we turned, but I swear to God, even working the W-2, we were dead broke for the first 3 years doing this. Just like every cent, and I still do it. I'm still an idiot, right? I look up at my bank account, it's like, where's all my money at?
Bro.
It's like, oh, it's in all of these houses.
It's really hard when you're
Yeah.
massively trying to acquire stuff
Yeah.
or grow anything, you
Sure.
know? It's
That's like the one thing. It's just like you have to be prepared to be broke for a very long time. I'm doing this for 7 years, and it's like to this day, there's still months. I was just talking to my buddy on the phone coming out here, and it was like, well, you know, we're dead broke most months, and we have some good months, and then there's super highs and there's super lows, and the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, and you want to kill yourself. It's just like, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it really does. And to most people that don't understand either business or the world of real estate in its entirety, it's like I was just having a conversation with somebody like a week ago, and I'm still in that spot right now. Like on a cash perspective, it's like, dude, shit sucks right now. This has been a challenging year and everything. And I was having a conversation with a guy about that, and he doesn't really know much about like business and nothing about real estate. And he's like, well, like with all your rentals and everything, like how's everything going? I'm like, everything's fine. And he's like, well, don't you have equity and everything in your properties? I'm like, yeah, I still have a crap ton of equity and everything. He's like, well, so like you're not broke then? I'm like, nah, man, I'm broke. He's like, you just showed me that you have like $2 million in equity. I'm like, that doesn't mean any, especially right now. This is the perfect situation where that doesn't matter because I have all my interest rates at like, 4%, 5%. I don't really want to refi to 8 or 9 to pull money out of that and everything.
And no one's giving lines of credit.
I don't want to sell either,
Exactly.
So it's like, cool, that's there on paper, but it doesn't mean anything.
So we sit like at 68% LTV, right? So like that portfolio is 68%. So we have 32% equity across all the rentals. And that is just a number on a balance sheet.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean a damn thing, right? Yep. And tenants not paying or like Section 8 transfers take forever and blah, blah, blah. And you look at property managers and like, I'm owed like 40 grand. Like it's a ton of money. And just like, so you need a ton of rentals to cash flow and be comfortable, right? Like, and that's if you aren't in growth mode, because I still sink every last cent into like the plan this year was like, oh, interest rates are going through the roof. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to only flip houses in Q4. I'm going to take a bunch of capital, pay down bad debt, and I'm also going to like just stack the coffers so that when they do come back down to earth or the market gets a little bit hotter, like we can hit the ground running.
Yep.
The opposite happened, right? We bought like 6 houses already in Q. Like it's not even close. The year's not over. It's just I have an addiction, I think.
Well, I totally understand that.
I totally
understand that.
Yeah.
And that's a problem in and of itself. But if it's your worst problem, it's an okay problem. You know. But yeah, man, it's interesting where we're at with everything. But like, I'm sure just as many guys as I do that have slowed down or stopped altogether in the last 12 to 18 months. I know some guys that are in a really, really bad spot and everything because of where we're at economically and due to the market and everything. Yeah. And, like I know other guys that are struggling a little bit, but they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
It's like, dude, this is a challenging market right now. Like you're not being a little bitch by saying that everything isn't sunshine and rainbows, It's like the fact that you're still here and doing it, that is the most impressive accomplishment and still buying stuff and doing things and making it happen.
If you think that I want to be going through neighborhoods in North Philadelphia and knocking on doors to talk to squatters to see if they are going to sign a lease, or like, you're out of your goddamn mind.
It's not something you want to do.
It's not something I want to. But like, if you still want to be making progress right now, you got to be super creative, right? Yep. It's got to be, what is no one else doing? Cool, let's do that. Like, that's kind of the way it has to be right now. Because
totally agree.
I think year on year in our area, it's down. Like, deals on the MLS are down by 35%. Like, that's
significant,
difficult.
Man.
That's a ton of houses, right? There's no deals out there.
Yeah. So let me ask you about that with squatters.
Yeah.
What's your secret?
I don't want to tell it now. So we have like a little process, right? So we have like the best attorney. I can't say enough good things about him. His name is Jeff Katz. So if anyone needs anything, he's your man, right? Like, phenomenal. So we don't deal with it, to be completely honest. We pay him to deal with it.
Okay.
We have to go for the lockouts, but now we're aggressively seeking these houses out.
Got
it. Normally Wednesdays and Fridays we go out and we door knock. So me and one of my acquisition guy or the other one, or they'll go together or whatever that looks like. But we'll door knock and say, hey, what's going on? We bought this house. I want to know what your intentions are. We just want to see, will you sign a lease? Is there a way to get out? Half the time we get into these properties, like half the time they won't invite us in because the spiel is, I'm going to fix this up. right? Like is it okay if I look around? I'm not going upstairs. I just need to see the first floor. I just need to see the basement, right? I want to see the mechanicals. I want to see what's going on. So at that point, we can kind of take a bunch of pictures and then turn that around and send it out to the owners and realtors and stuff like that and be like, do you want to deal with this? Or do you want me to deal with this? Because, like, you haven't been able to get in here. It took me a week to get in here. And, like, I'm also equipped to do all the renovations and deal with the tenant and get them out if I need to. It's like, if you want to handle it, that's fine. Like, no harm, no foul. If that's the case, just like if it falls through, keep us in mind. We're always here. Here's our number, right?
Yep. I love that.
But if you don't want to, or your seller doesn't want to, they want to stop paying their mortgage, taxes, insurance. They don't want to go to foreclosure. They don't want to go to sheriff's sale. I'm your guy. And if you get to that point where you're super close to sheriff's sale, like, call me. I can close in 2 days. You know, like, that's kind of we just want to give everyone the warm fuzzy. I think a lot of times this is a very stressful situation, and people, it's just aggression, threats. That's not the way that we want to approach it. We want to make sure it's like, this is the situation. We know it's
That's
awful.
a massive value, man. That's a huge service that I think anybody with half a brain is going to realize, like, I don't want to deal with this. And if this guy has a system and a process and can get rid of my headache, doesn't matter if I get a little bit less money.
Exactly.
You know?
And half the time, the pictures that are on the MLS or the pictures that were sent from Facebook or any different marketing channels we do, because we market specifically towards this, they're from when they did the renovation 3 years ago. And the house
so when you say you're doing marketing towards it, you mean not properties just that are listed. Obviously, you're buying stuff that is listed and maybe says squatter or something in the description, but you're doing your own outreach to absentee owners that may have a squatter situation.
Facebook, Craigslist, the social medias, and absentee owners, like everything. Just like, hey, this is what we do. We have ads. We're posting them everywhere. Just like if you have an issue with this, we're trying to become the name. Like, hey, if you want to sell a squatter property, Easy Home Buyers who you come to, because they will deal with it and they'll give you like a fair-ish price, right?
There's a lot of risk involved. So it's.
But we're trying to position ourselves that way. It's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to take a very long time. There's a lot of hurdles, right? Like, we are in no way, shape, or form great at it, but it's just going to be consistency, right? We'll work the kinks out along the way. I think that's with anything. There's been some lockouts that have been a little tense. You know, there's been a couple of situations that make you feel a little uncomfortable. There's been a couple times where you knock on the door ever so slightly. You don't want them to answer, but it's all part of the game, I think.
Knock on the door, step to the side.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I do that on my good rentals. I don't know. It's just like a habit. I don't know. Seen too many movies.
I know.
Shooting through the door at you. I don't know.
You hear, we were literally last Friday, and just like, bang, bang, bang. Who is it? We're not opening the door for anybody. Who is it? She's like, hey, it's just Ryan. And they were like, okay. And they opened it. She's like, hey, what's going on? Here's the number. Have your mom call me, and we're going to see him tomorrow to sit down.
Really?
So we're going to go, and this is part of it. Like, we've made the verbal offer, which is in negotiations, though. But sit down with Friday is we're talking to the tenant, but we're also checking condition.
Got it.
So, like, that's the main part of the sit down is like, hey, this is
tentatively where we were going to be.
Right.
But
So, and then also it's a chance to talk to the tenant and give them a lease and say, this is what the lease is going to look like. This is the value we're looking for. Like, this is something you think you can do. We're happy to work with you. This is not going to be like a you're out the day we close situation, but like, this is moving forward. So, like, where do you sit here?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm sure I know the answer to this, but hypothetically, if you have a property and the tenants simply won't let you in, are you still going to buy it?
Yeah.
Sight unseen?
Right.
Just has to be a better price.
Has to be a better price. There's one we just did that with. It was just like, it was listed low in the MLS, which means they want out, right? Like, if it's drive-by only, aggressive tenant, I think it said. It's
perfect.
Like amazing.
Yeah.
So like, okay, so
sounds cheap.
Went, knocked, and it was a semi-aggressive tenant, or like the door was opened, some choice words were said. We were not going to get in there. They were not going to contact us. So, then the conversation is what we talk to them, and they are very aggressive. And our costs are going to go up because we have an ejectment, we have 6 months of holding, and we don't know the condition. So, like, what do you want to do?
Is that what you usually predict? Like, this is going to take 6 months?
Yeah, it'll take every bit of it.
Is that specifically in Philly? Like, Norristown has to be quicker than that, right?
Norristown's quicker. The system's a little different in every county you go to, every state you go to. I think we have a much better grasp of it in Philly because we have a great attorney. We haven't really reached out to the counties just yet, and don't even think about trying it in New Jersey.
What, evictions? And,
there's no, you're not, there's a statewide.
I love
rental
when
increase.
Sellers tell us like, oh yeah, we're filing the eviction on Monday, so I'll have it vacant in another week. It's like, really, dude? Have you ever done this before? Oh yeah, I've been doing this for years. No, you haven't.
No chance.
If so, I'm gonna hire you to do all of my eviction. You can get somebody out in a week legally. Like, nah, dude.
We do a lot of the construction work for one of the largest landlords in Camden. The owner talks to like the mayor and everyone in the city. They can't get it done. Right. Like it's not the place to do things like Philadelphia is also difficult, right? Like it's a very.
That's why it's interesting hearing you say that Philadelphia is one of the places that you feel that you're the most like systematized, because most people I hear say, I don't even want to buy rentals in Philly anymore. And like, I'm not talking about just people that buy one here, two here. Like, I'm talking guys that have had giant portfolios in Philly and they're like, nah, dude, never again.
I agree. I mean, on the squatter side, the discounts are so massive.
Makes it worth it.
It does make it worth it. But also, if we're playing a volume game for squatter houses, there's no better place in Philadelphia, right? There's 1.6 million people that live in the city proper, and there's a lot of impoverished neighborhoods, and not that it's a great thing, but like there's more. The numbers are larger, in a major metropolitan area than they would be in a Norristown or like Abington area, right? There's just less of them.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you find that? I was just thinking about it now, and just had a thought. With most of the squatter properties that you come across, I guess. I've never come across like a squatter property that is Section 8 occupied. They're usually cash tenants.
Yeah, it would have to be.
Yeah, because, I was just thinking because, I have a couple of Section 8 tenants that, Section 8 pays 60% of their rent and the other 40%, whatever. I don't know. Just a thought. But they're always cash tenants.
So they always have to. Yeah. So Section 8 tenants have a portion. 60% is normally on that's a very them paying 40% is on the very high end.
Yeah.
Normally you'll see around the 10 to 15%. That's kind of on average, and it's very easy to work something out with them. Like, hey, tax returns, we want to get paid for the year, for last year, right? It's always the trailing year, so it's easy to work that out, especially if it's $75 a month, $60 a month. Like it adds up over the year, but. You just talk to the property manager, talk to the tenant, make sure that everyone's on the same page, and then start the follow-up process 2 months early, right? Like, hey, this is what we agreed on. This is what we want to do. You also don't. It's very rare to evict a Section 8 tenant. If there's. So, hear me out.
My first one.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, we didn't end up evicting them, but it was like my first Section 8 tenant that we brought on, and it was probably around this time last year. And I always had this thought in my mind, like most of my rentals are in, I guess, not D-class neighborhoods. They're probably like C-class. Yeah. And I just never really liked the idea of renting Section 8. So I just never did, and served me well for 5 or 6 years. And then around this time last year, it's like, dude, we turned over like almost all of our units. Yeah. Like we had some tenants that were with us for years, never missed rent, never late, always respectful and everything. And we ended up even having to evict some of them that became non-pay and everything. So I had the same thing in the back of my mind. I'm like, man, some guaranteed rental income would be nice to, kind of offset some of my risk here. So the first one that we got, dude, Section 8 tenant that we brought into a 4-unit property. And dude, the cops were there like, 6 times in the first couple of weeks. So now the police are threatening to fine me for every time that they go there and everything. The township's telling me that I have to evict them and everything. And I'm like, okay, so I'm filing for the eviction and everything. And we're talking with the caseworker for Section 8 and everything. And they're like, oh my God, what? Like the guy knew my wife handles all the apartments and everything. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. He's like, I've been doing this for 15 years and I've never had a situation like this with somebody that's in our program and everything. And just apologizing up and down. It's like, it is what it is. We'll go through the eviction. Get everything set up, go to court, and I've had a lot of evictions where the tenants just don't show up at court, but they showed up, and apparently, I still don't know if it's valid or not, but they claimed that it was a domestic abuse type of situation or whatever, and that's why the police were there multiple times. Mm-hmm. So the eviction was like, oh, that was thrown out, so now they can stay indefinitely. And since then, they have gotten their act together, and they're okay now.
Right.
However, all 3 other tenants fucking left as a result. So I ended up with 3 units vacant for 2 months while I'm trying to figure everything out. So that was painful. That really sucked, you know?
Absolutely. I'd say the one thing, when it comes to Section 8, I recommend against dipping your toe in, right? Like it should be a major part of your portfolio or it should not be, right? Like, because what has worked for us very well is getting to know the caseworkers. So it gets to a point where they know that your houses are going to be nice. They know that you're going to take care of the tenants. They know that you're going to get your paperwork in time. They know that they might get a gift basket at the Christmas time, right?
Hell yeah.
They know all those things. We don't get a lot of complaints. We are landlords that our tenants love. So that all goes.
That's huge.
Right? And then the caseworkers, they work with you because sometimes you can get the 2.5% increase. Sometimes you get a 6% increase. Sometimes you can get like actual cost of living increase for, say, you've been getting 2.5% for 2 or 3 years, and then now you're $400 deficit, they'll jump you up. But having those relationships it's the biggest part for Section 8. It really is. You want to know the caseworker, you want to know the supervisor, and you want to pop your head in every once in a while. You want to bring packets with you. You want to say this is for this tenant, especially in the beginning. So that's one of the biggest recommendations I have is get to know the office supervisor, get to know caseworker supervisor, and get to know each caseworker. Pick the phone up, talk to them, and if they do a good job, send them something.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
It really works. I mean, they will do you favors. We have been in situations where it's like, hey, here's the packet, 4-bed, 1-bath, great rent, fully subsidized voucher, and it's like you might not want to rent to that tenant. And to us, that means absolutely do not rent to this tenant.
Yeah.
They have a track record of whatever. You don't want to rent to them. I know they're fully subsidized. That's great, but don't do it.
Don't do it.
So it does work.
Just like everything, man. Relationships are the most powerful thing to put time, effort, and energy into. Yeah. And a lot of people shy away from it because it takes time, effort, and energy to cultivate the relationships. But once you have them, man, there's not any cost involved in it. And like you said, sure, maybe you send a gift basket or whatever, but come on, man.
It's got to be like intentional, I think.
Absolutely.
Right? Like
so people can see through that crap too. Like
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. So like it can't just be a nice email and a gift basket and that's it. And then you suck, your house sucks, you're rude to the tenants. Like it's got to be a full package that everyone can, again, everyone wins off this. So everyone's happy.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So right now, like what's your, I hate the question because I can't even look for myself like, oh, what am I going to be doing 10 years from now? Like even 5 years, I feel like is too far out to kind of project and predict. But like, what do you want to do? Like, what's your goal?
Yeah, it changes every 6 months, right? So I think the one thing that has stayed relatively consistent is buy a bunch of rentals. And then.
But what does that mean? How much is a bunch?
So I think get to that like 250 point, right? Get 250 and then leverage the equity to lend money. Which,
all right.
Because like we have a private lender who is a saint and a devil. Like he is, you sign a deal with the devil. We were just talking about that the other day. He has gotten me out of so many jams. He is the best guy ever. He has given me so much advice. He is one of the smartest people I've ever met, but he's very expensive, right? Like you look at some of these deals and it's like, did I really just pay 14.5% for this? Like I gave you 2 days notice. It's 100% my fault, or it was a crisis situation or whatever. But 14.5 is a lot of money, right?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So that's always been
14 end points, or
so that's with points, right? So
Okay,
it's
got it.
like 11 flat with 2 points. And then there's the origination fees and the paperwork fees.
Sure.
And then if you go over your 3 month, there's a point there. If you go over 6 months, there's a point there. So like it can slowly snowball
Yep.
into a ton of interest payments. Like
lot.
if you want to make yourself sick, go back and see how much interest you paid over the course of 12 months. And it's like, well, I could have all these cash flowing rentals and also be making all this money lending money. So like that's been my in the back of my head plan forever.
got it.
We are like building out a pretty substantial construction team right now, which is my favorite part. So in a past life, I was a project manager for like an engineering company. Anything goes in like a bottle or a can, we made the equipment for. So I really enjoy that part of it. It is very work intensive. It is like that's going to be something where it'll be the last thing that I kind of give up in our company because I love it. But
What do you mean? The project management?
yeah,
Okay.
of like all the jobs and everything. But it's a lot, right? It's a lot of running around. It's a lot of babysitting. It's a lot of project management, like coordination. Like I'm a glorified scheduler, and it takes 30 hours a week. Like it's a lot. So I don't know where that's going to be in even 2 years, right? But that is ramping up. Like we just let 2 people go, so we're back down to 6 guys. But hopefully by the start of next year, we're up around like 10 full-time guys for the construction side, and that's a heavy lift. You got to keep people busy. You got to have a pipeline. So I really don't know where all this is going to land. I just know that they all work together very well, right?
Yeah.
So like having in-house construction, flipping houses, doing rentals, like all 3 of those work hand in hand. Like,
Yeah.
So if I do construction,
They're all kind of necessary. So
They are,
having
yeah.
anything in house is
Right.
helpful.
it works. So the construction obviously flips the houses for us and does the rentals for us, but we also make a good amount of money doing construction work for other investors. So that helps pay for all the rentals, right? And then obviously the down payments for the flips and any of the interest fees. So like instead of we tried to wholesale, it was a massive failure. So I think I could have lit 75 grand on fire faster than I lost it wholesaling. So we got back into construction, and now that is our active income. Because
Got it.
for a while there, you can BRRRR houses, but you can only do so many.
Yep.
Because you have to float so much. You have to float the down payment. You have to float everything before a draw. Like, how liquid are you really?
Yep.
You need to have active income. And if you don't, you're not doing more than 4 or 5 houses a year. Like, there's just no way.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You can't scale, like, no matter how you slice it, you have to have some form of active income. And I know for a long time, like a lot of guys just banked on that. Okay, well, when I refi, I'm going to pull out an extra 20 grand, and that is going to be my cash flow. Right. But especially now, like, take that away. I think even in the great times of the 3-4% interest rates, that's still like it's not a solid foundation. You still have to have some other form of short-term active income to be able to offset everything.
You talk like cash conversion cycle.
Right.
Like for a BRRRR property, that is a very long time.
Very
like,
long.
You buy it. Say that you're a rock star and you can renovate these houses in like soup to nuts. Like you're doing mechanicals, you're doing full cosmetic, you're getting it through inspections, you're getting it through an appraisal. So, and then you're starting the refi. And even if that seasoning period is only 3 months and 1 day, that's still 3 months and 1 day, right?
Dude.
And to only pull 5-10 grand out of it, because what I see is a lot of people don't factor in interest costs, they don't factor in utility costs, they don't factor in what did you pay on the HUD.
Yep.
Like, does anyone really look at a HUD and see that they spent all this money in transfer and title insurance and private or like if you're using a private lender, like what do the points look like? If you're using a bank, what do the points look like? Like you need to put your HUD 1 and 2 into the calculation. Did you really pull 15 grand out, or did you pull 2,500?
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. And dude, I'm guilty of it on rental properties easily. Like on anything that I've ever bought, rehabbed, and then refied. Yeah, no, it's like I'm usually just kind of, when I'm buying initially, I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm buying for $200,000. I'm putting $50,000 into it. And if I'm able to, there's enough value that I can pull all of my cash back out. All right, let's say that I'm going to factor that I'm going to get a $270,000 mortgage once everything is all said and done with. And now what am I going to cash flow per month after that? But I'm definitely not taking into consideration my holding costs over those months, and the loss of rents, because that's real, because you're factoring, well, I'm going to be able to cash flow $300. Well, guess what? It took you 4 months to go from purchase to being able to have it rent ready. That's 4 months of vacancy, dude. I do it too.
The first 20 rentals I did were home runs, right? Because you don't think about any of that.
Yeah.
Like, none of that gets factored in. And then it's like, when you start to piece it together. Like, oh, well, we're not thinking about this, or this isn't in my Excel sheet, or this isn't in our chart, or this isn't in here and there. And you start to think, like, if I leave $5,000 in a deal, cool. Like, that's our maximum. Like, we don't want to leave more than $5,000 in a deal. If we do, we mess something up. Like, we want to be able to pull out 5 to 10, right? Like, that's kind of, and the houses we buy are super cheap, right? And we're not really buying much over the 75, 100 grand mark. So a little different. And that's for cash flow reasons as well. There's not a lot of rents that support a $200,000 appraisal, especially now.
Very
true.
So
we can kind of live in that little bubble. So it's easier to control. It's like the scales of economy. But we don't want to leave more than $5,000 in, all said and done. That's
got it.
Interest, insurance, taxes, HUDs, like everything. And then obviously construction, carrying costs, blah, blah, blah.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, just thinking back to what you said in the beginning about having the servicing companies for your mortgage companies handle all your property taxes and everything. So when you refi right now, are you specifically using one lender? Yeah.
I gotta tell you, we pay more. I know we do. Like, I know for a fact that we pay more, probably like 0.5% and a point. And right now we're doing a lot of 3-2-1 buy downs as well, assuming rates will come back down to earth in the next 2 years at least. Because right now prepayment penalties are at 5 years for a lot of the lenders we've talked to. So we'll do a 3-2-1 buy down, so that if it does last 2 years, we're not getting hit over the head when we do refinance a portfolio of properties. But yeah, we are actively looking at the 30-year fix and everything it brings. And right now it helps the cash flow. And I can't tell you how awful it is to have to pay taxes and insurance, and like you miss one here and you go delinquent there. And it's just like, you might have just misplaced a piece of mail. And now you're dealing with collection agencies. And if you're in some of these municipalities that are high rentals, the collection agency is going to get you for the township. They're going to get you for a refuse fee. They're going to get you for the stormwater fee. Yep. And there's 3 separate sets of collections. And each one of those from a single tax bill has a paperwork fee associated with it. Right. So you can go from a $2,500 tax bill to a $4,000 tax bill in the blink of an eye. Like, easily. And it's just, you misplace something, or you're busy, or, you missed a single deadline. And that's all on you, but it happens all the time.
And when you have multiple different mortgage companies and some do pay your taxes, some don't, it's like, it's really hard to, again, scale without having that organization and systems in place, So
we have it pretty well, like, I would say 90% of our mortgages are 25-year, 5-year balloons. But if this 30-year product is still around and, some of them are going to mature in the next year and a half, 2 years, like, we're going over to that. No matter what. I don't care if it's more expensive. I don't, like, whatever it looks like, just take care of the escrow, take care of everything. And the nice thing is that they normally over escrow. So at the end of the year, you're getting a little bit of a check back. Like, hey, here's $1,300 for taking the easy route. Like, I'll do it every day of the week.
Dude, I just had one talk about over escrow, and I'm an idiot because it took me 6 months to realize it. But one of my mortgage companies, for a 4-unit, we refinanced with them a year and a half ago or something. And I just kind of expected that after I refied, like, my payment was going to go up a little bit. Sure. So I just didn't really look at it, right? And that's on the rental side, right? So I really kind of don't play with those books or anything. It's like it just builds, it does its thing, right? And like 6 months in, I was looking at something, And I think I was doing something with a P&L, and I was like, man, that seems really high for like the mortgage payment on that one. Cause I refinanced 2 buildings at the same time. And the value of the mortgage on both of them was really similar. And the one payment was like $2,500 and the other was like $3,500. I'm like, something's weird here, dude.
Yeah.
So I started digging into it, and they put a lender-based insurance policy in place for my one property. And again, I bought them or refinanced them both at the same time. So they did it on one property, not the other. Reached out to them and the servicing company for my mortgage company, and explained to them, like, yo, I have insurance, here's proof and everything. They're like, oh, okay, our bad, we messed up. I'm like, by the way, how did you put an insurance policy in place that is literally $12,000 a year? Like, this is insanity, right? Yeah. But it took me 6 or 7 months to notice it because I'm an idiot. And they're like, yep, we messed up, our bad, we'll get it corrected next month. And for the overage that you've been paying since you did have sufficient coverage the entire time, you'll get a check back for that amount.
Nice.
Dude, it went on for another 7 or 8 months of them still taking the $3,500 a month. Me or my assistant having to call them twice a week for 6 or 7 months. And every single time they acknowledge, oh, yep, we messed up. Let me talk to your supervisor. Yep, supervisor. Oh, we messed up. We'll get it straightened out. But it'll take till next month when you get your next statement and everything will be straightened out. And sure enough, that never happened. Yeah. But after like 7 months, they finally did straighten it out. And I just got a check like, I don't know, a month ago now for like $15,000. Awesome, and it's like, all right, wonderful. But it's stupid crap like that, okay, obviously they're going to get it straightened out eventually. Yeah. But the amount of time, effort, and energy that went into that, it's like, dude, I had somebody probably at least spending 1 hour a week for 6 months to straighten out something that shouldn't have existed in the first place. Right. And it's all that little crap that bogs you down. Utility companies, right? Like,
yeah, it's all got to be.
How do you deal with that stuff?
So everything's on auto pay, right? And so similar situations. I have a VA that kind of looks through utility costs to kind of see. Multis, we're only paying water, and then single families, we don't pay anything aside from sewer. So it's like it's fine. I think you hold mostly multis.
Mostly multi-families, yeah.
So we have identified a handful of leaks in properties from looking at water bills and stuff like that, but majority we're not. And like even during the renovation process, I'm not. Unless they turn the power off or they turn the water off,
you're not putting it on
touch
in
it
your name,
we'll be in and out of it in 6 weeks normally. Like if there's no heavy mechanicals, like we're having a tenant in there within 6 weeks. So
got it.
They'll put it in their name, and then if there's a balance there or whatever, obviously we're going to take care of that. But we don't deal a lot with it. So what are you going to do with that $15,000? You're gonna you should put a roof on every single one of your house. Like the first thing we do.
I wish I could put a roof on every one of my houses for $15,000, bro.
So
most of my roofs are gonna be 15 or 20 grand.
Oh, really?
Because they're bigger properties, you know.
Gotcha.
I wish I had flat roofs.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. They're the best.
That'd be nice.
We put a tar roof on for $2,500. So every house. I mean, sometimes there's plywood and flashing. It might be 32, but like, it's something we never did in the beginning. If I buy a house now, roofers out there, like literally the next day. It's the first thing we do. It's like
no matter what, like even if it looks good, you're not just going to throw a silver coat on it. You're just
we'll silver coat it, right? So like if he gets up there and it's like this roof's 5 years old, it's like well silver coat it,
yep,
450, 600, whatever. So I learned that from the landlord in Camden that we do all their construction work for. It was just like I don't care what you do, check the chimney, put a roof on it. Then give me a quote for anything else. But those are the things that you do. And it just makes so much sense. Like, we're over here, just like trying to keep costs down. They even go as far as to replace every stack. Like, they open the wall up, replace every single stack because they leak so often. And these guys have like 700 units, right? So it's a scales of economy. Like, if you have 100 stacks go, it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But and you learn a lot from the bigger players, right? The stuff that they do. Preventive maintenance, a lot of stuff that we've learned. We don't have boob lights anymore. We only use LEDs. So
really,
instead of spending
$10
on a boob light and spending the $23 for an LED, when you do a turn, 99.9% of the time, the boob light, the glass is gone. You have to replace the whole entire thing. The light bulbs are out. you put an LED in, no one touches it, and it will last 10, 15 years. Like, you don't have to deal with it.
True.
Like, there's no broken lights. They're not hanging out on the ceiling. Like, same thing. We use Kohler toilets. We don't use Glacier Bay. We do a lot of like the life-proof flooring, not the stick-down laminate. It's just you spend a lot more on the front end.
Yeah.
But your maintenance costs are so much lower that they pay for themselves. They last a lot longer, right? Like, the only thing we haven't figured out yet is doors and doorknobs. They tend to get, every single one gets kicked in no matter what. So if we ever figure that one out, that'll be great. But a lot of our renovation is built around decreasing long-term maintenance costs.
Right.
So like that, again, the nickel and dimes, say you are making the $50 a month and you're spending $50 a month, like, you're really breaking even on these things. So why not put it all in the front end so you can appreciate it and blah, 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 right?
Yep.
So that's like a big focus we've had recently, is just how do we decrease long-term maintenance, even like exterior. So we'll restucco the sides of houses, anything that's going to, like, it looks not glaring, not crazy, but like it could use a little love. We're just going to do it.
Got it.
Even if that means leaving more money in the deal.
I mean, I totally agree with that method. I've had a couple people over the years tell me like that I'm an idiot. Like, dude, even in my rentals, I'll put granite countertops and everything. And, you know, like we kind of try to make things as nice as possible. Like you said, I want people to stay as long as humanly possible. I want people to come in when we're showing a unit and be like, wow, this is the nicest thing that I've seen in the last month.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, cool. Move in and stay, please.
Right.
Stay.
And you can leave shitty Formica and you can leave shitty cabinets and they'll swell, or you can put a new top on. Formica top is $200, right? I get it. There's cost savings. I understand, but the long, like, if you use level 3 cabinets, you can get them repainted. You can get them wrapped. Like, they will last, and they'll be in good condition for 5, 6, 7 years, right? Same with the granite tops. Like, they'll last 10 years. And then if you got to replace them, you got to replace them. But, like, you can get them resealed. There's a bunch of things you can do to increase longevity of, like, nicer things, which means longer term tenants, and you get a lot more people that want to be there. You're not just like, there's been
agree.
a ton of times where it's like, well, it's been on the market for 2 months. We have one application. Tenant kind of sucks. They have an eviction. What are we going to do? Do we want to let it sit for another 2 months, or do we want to take this tenant that we know is going to be a nightmare? Or you can do a better job up front and have 10 applications, right? And now it's like, well, let's pick the best one or the best 2, really run their credit, really look at their background, really check their income, call their employers, and now we know we have someone that's going to be good for 5 years.
So that's a great point. So, like, what is your typical, like, screening process and requirements? And, like, do you hold firm as hell on, this is our process, we don't take under this credit score, or what's that look like?
So, yeah. So we're pretty firm at, like, 630. That's kind of the credit score will be around, right? One person in the house has to have it. Not everyone in the house has to have it. Income together, we want it to be 35%, right? Like the rent to be 35% of take home. So we'll want to see pay stubs and stuff like that, which I know is
take home. Okay.
Which I know is high, but like that's where we want it to be, just so we know that, like, because again, single family, they're going to have other bills. They have to pay. If it's a cash tenant, there's going to be Comcast or Verizon, there's going to be water, gas, Pico, so all of that filters in. So if they're at 45% of living costs, like then there's food, then there's kids. Like, it has to make sense that way. Yep. So those are our 2 big ones. No evictions, obviously. We make sure to call the old landlords. So how is this tenant? And no one really cares. No one picks the phone up. That's like, it's almost a Hail Mary. Like, if they suck, the landlord will answer and be like, they suck. But aside from that, you leave a message.
I don't know, man. I've thought about that before. Like, if you had a really shitty tenant and you were on the verge of evicting them and somebody called you and you were really trying to get this tenant out, would you say that they suck and you're evicting them? Or would you be like, yeah, they're wonderful, you should let them move in, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing that we've thought of is that it's probably not the landlord. It's probably your sister, your brother, your uncle, right? There's
probably
a 90% chance.
But if they answer the phone, you'd be able to decipher real quickly if you're speaking with somebody that actually owns property or is an uncle of, exactly. A shithead.
Right. So luckily, we haven't had to do a lot of that in a while. Like, I think we self-managed up to like 35-ish units, and then it's like the tenant phone calls, the all the time issues, the 12 p.m. on a Saturday and Sunday. And I understand it's the worst part of your week, like the person going through the issue, right? Like there's a leak, there's a problem, blah, blah, blah. Like it sucks. But it's just, I think for me specifically is it handcuffs you from being in growth mode, right? Like it's another thing that's going to derail your day, your evening, your week. It's going to stress you out. It's going to like, there's the people that do property management are absolute saints. The people that do it well are gifts from God, right? We have one property manager they are absolute rock stars. And I have 3 property managers. I compare each of them to them. I'm just like, well, you're not doing what they do, and you're not doing what they do, and like, this is what they do. And I think they don't give a shit, right? Like, it's just like, I know that you could be doing this better. I know you could be doing that better. So the one thing we do with property managers is I'm up their ass at all times, right? And I just like, when they're doing a great job, it is very clear that they're doing a great job. I make sure to tell them they're doing a great job. But when things aren't happening, it's follow-up emails daily, right? Like, what's going on here? What's going on there? What are we doing with this? What are we doing with that? This is coming up. Is this on your radar? Like, just because when you have self-managed a fund, like, you kind of know the flow of things. And it's like, every day is $1. So, like, you need to manage. Like, I don't want to deal with it. But, like, this is all the stuff you need to be doing. So I think people that just like set it and forget it when it comes to property management, like with their property, they don't do as well, right? Maintenance issues go overlooked, tenants are less happy. You know, you do a turn and it's like, well, the ceiling's been like, this is an active leak. Like, what's going on? You know, like, so I do think all that.
Managing your property manager
that's another good thing about Section 8 is that they do annual inspections.
Good point.
It's your preventative maintenance, you know, and outside of PHA, they're relatively fair. Like McWright and Associates, they're fair. You know, they give you 24-hour for emergencies. They give you 30 days for the other stuff. Half the time you can send pictures, like if you get to know the inspectors and stuff. So, but it gets you, and with your rentals, how often is somebody inside of them that doesn't live there? Like someone from you or your team or whatever.
Not that often.
Right.
Yeah, not that often.
So it's nice to have like a government agency.
Yeah, a push like that.
They're coming in.
It's a redundancy.
No matter what. Yeah. And they're going to take a look around and they're going to take a bunch of pictures and I'm going to get a report back that says I got to do these things. But I also get a bunch of pictures to see what the house looks like.
Yeah.
And do I need to be concerned? And if one of those things is a ton of rodents, I know it's not great. Right. So like now we're going to get more involved or we're going to send someone to get more involved. Right. Like, so I love that aspect of Section 8. I really do. It kind of like, it's an annual checkup on your tenants where it's like, are you screwing the house up? Was it like, are you ruining everything? You know, like it can be a nightmare because it feels like McWright or PH or anyone, Camden, they find an outlet that one thing, they have to find something. The cover's a little crooked. Like now you got to send a body to go. It's like, someone's got to drive there to put a new base plate on.
And that's cost, man. And all that crap adds up. But yeah.
But it's worth it, in my opinion.
That
it's
makes
kind of
sense.
like you're getting an annual checkup on your property.
Dude, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you're right, even for me, because I do the same thing. It's like everything that I buy, I'm rehabbing up front. So it's like there shouldn't be too much maintenance early on or whatever. And in my mind, I probably am too lax as a result of that. And it's like, oh, yeah, we may not have been in that unit for 2 years, but it's like, I know we just fully rehabbed it and everything is a good tenant. So, you know, if there's anything wrong, they're going to let us know, you know, and that's probably a flawed way of looking at it. And that's not a way that you can actually scale anything.
Right.
And if you can, it's risky as hell.
It can.
You know?
And there's easy ways around that, like health and safety checks, right? So we have to come in every 12 or 24 months, check all the fire alarms. Like, there's a 100% chance they will all be taken down.
Yeah.
But we have to, some bullshit excuse, like the township is requiring that we do this every 12 months. Like, I don't care if they're up or down, but I need to make sure that they still work wherever they are.
Right.
And you get eyes in there.
Yep. That makes sense, dude. That makes a lot of sense.
It doesn't have to be you, right? You can send someone to do it. You can ask someone to do it. You can pay someone to do it, like whatever that looks like. But I do think people should get in the habit of getting eyes on their portfolio, 12, 24 months, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Someone over the year, before the 2-year mark, you should see what's going on.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. I just thought of, well, we have one tenant right now that they're almost at the end of like their 12-month lease and we're totally not going to renew. But it's like, it's so funny that the only time we ever get like maintenance requests that things are wrong is when we're following up on your rent is late.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, it's the, whatever it is right now, the 25th of the month. Right. And, you know, like we were gracious and didn't send the notice to quit, like it says in our lease, that we can send on the 6th. What's up? What's going? Oh, well, the sink is doing this and this is messed up and this is messed up. It's like, okay, how long's that been going on? Well, a while. So you didn't say anything and you're acting like you're not paying rent because of that, because we'll come out tomorrow and address all of those things, you know? And then we do and the rent still doesn't come. Yes. But that's the only time that I get maintenance requests, man.
Yeah, yeah.
When people are late.
We get them all the time. We try to have very open dialogue. So open that we get requests like, I want new floors, or like, I want different color cabinets. Like, you guys are pushing it way too far, right? Yep. I want you to be happy, but like, let's not fuck around too much, right?
Yep.
We had a
Don't
good
be ridiculous.
Yeah. We had a good one, filed an eviction, and it's, the heat doesn't work. Hasn't worked in months. It's like, well, and this is recent. This is in the past, like, 3 weeks we filed this. All right, well, what's going on? You kind of dig into the property a little bit more. You forget what they all look like. We have pictures in our Google Drive and everything. It's electric baseboard. So Pico's not on. Because I've seen electric baseboard heaters ripped from the wall, dangling through joists. They still work. Those things never die.
That's
like,
the truth.
You could smash them with a couple hammers. Like, they're going to turn on. So you kind of dig into it like, okay, well, can you show me your most recent Pico bill? Oh, well, Pico's not on. It's like, okay, well, you're getting evicted. Like, I don't know. Yep. But it's the same thing. It's whenever there's a negative interaction is a ton of maintenance comes through. Yep. We've had tenants say, like, we're not going to pay you. We're going to put it in an escrow account. So until all these maintenance issues, because we file an eviction, they pay, it gets lifted, they're upset with us for filing the eviction, and then they're going to pay. It's like, okay, well, make sure you give me the bank account details, and you let me know what bank it is, what branch you're putting it into every single month. Because
and let me guess, they never did it?
They never did it.
Oh, wow. How about that?
A lot of times if you push a little and demand details, it's not going to happen. And we still go and take care of everything.
Look, if there's anything ever wrong, I want to address it.
Absolutely.
I want you to have a happy, comfortable home and everything. Yeah. And of course, I want to protect the asset as well. Yeah. It's in our best interest, you know? But yeah, it's just some of the joys of the job, right?
So what percent of your portfolio is multi?
90%.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they mostly like 4 and below? Like
4, 2 4plexes, triplex, duplex. Yeah, I have one single family. Yeah. I only have one single family.
Have you ever thought of like taking the jump over 5 units, like putting your toe into like the 10-unit buildings and stuff like that?
Not really. And the only reason for that is just because I know that it is different, right? Oh, yeah. It's like, it's going to be a whole new thing that I have to learn and everything. And there was enough of a learning curve trying to figure out even the small multifamilies are figuring out single families. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like, I like to think about when I first started buying rentals or doing flips or doing wholesale or whatever. I go into almost everything from a very fucking naive perspective, of course, right? Yeah. Which is helpful, right? Because over-analysis kills action, right? So it's good being a quick start and just being able to jump into something. But now that I've had more experience in a lot of things related to real estate and business and everything, it's like almost everybody that I talk to that is early on in their investment career, whether they're a flipper, landlord, wholesaler, whatever, I feel like 80% of the people are like, yo, the end game for me is multifamily. I want to get into big multifamily. I want to own 50-unit, 100-unit buildings and everything. Yep. And I guess to me, it's like, yo, there's already a lot of people in that space. And these are really sophisticated investors with a lot of money behind them and everything. So for the first time in my business career, it's like I can look at it and be like, dude, it's really naive of me to think that I can go into that space where there's these really sophisticated people with a lot of money behind them and I'll be able to even compete at all. No, I mean, you totally can. And, it's the same way that you were able to start buying rentals. There were already people doing that, right?
Yep.
There were already people that were successful. But I feel that that's already a very competitive space right now, like the multifamily. Is there a place in it for me? Probably. I could probably do it, but I'm not going to put any focus into it,
I agree, right? I think that like the one place you could start is local 15 units and less, like those bigger, but because
it's almost like a transition between.
It is, right? Like the people that are playing, I agree. If you're in 50-unit buildings, you have a ton of capital. You have a bunch of GP partner, like you have people that know what they're doing. They've done this 25 times. They have processes in place. Like that's not where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But if you dip your toe in with like the 15, 10-unit buildings, I think that you have to find them though, because they're not very common. And what is Crexy or whatever it's called, like the second it gets there, it's been shopped so many times that like if it gets there, it should be a dead deal, right? Yeah. Whoever buys it off that, and no disrespect to them, I'm sure they do great business. It's just like you see a lot of people that know what they're talking about. They say like once it gets there, like I don't know, you better chop 30-40% off of it.
Yep.
It's interesting. It's something that like I think we're in cruise control growth mode, like which is it's an amazing place to be. You always get shiny object syndrome, right? Like it's like, do I want to try and build a house or do I want to try and like get a small multifamily? It's like
but that's okay. That's healthy when you're doing it in proportion and you're not derailing the core part of your business. Just like we were talking before we started recording that, people that have that mentality, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to take 10 hours away from my work week so I can do that. It's like, no, the productive way to do it is say, I'm keeping all this the same and I'm going to do this on top of everything else. Exactly. Then it's much less risky.
It is. No, I totally agree. I made a promise that 2024 is just keep everything the same, right? Let's see what happens with the market. Let's see what happens with interest rates. Let's see what we can do. If there's anything strategic, awesome. There's a lot of stuff that we have already started up that we have to get better at. There's a lot of things that we need to clean up, right? Like I bought 4 houses in flood zones this year. That's a nightmare, right? Like the $2,500, $3,500 insurance bills on top of your regular insurance and your tax, like they don't make money now. Like I got to work on getting rents up. I got to work on like getting taxes down. There's a lot of stuff that we can do to clean up what we have.
Yep.
So that's the plan for next year, without a doubt. Talk to me in June of next year, and I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, look, we pivot all the time, man. Yeah. We do what we have to, but I will. I'll ask you.
Yeah, of course. We'll figure it out. But it's good problems to have.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
To your point, though, I think the 10, 15, maybe even up to 20 unit building, more often than not, you're probably still the seller that you're going to be working with is probably like mom and pop type of thing. It's not a big corporation. Yes. It's a very similar process to dealing with sellers that you would be like in what we do in single family, small multifamily, right?
I think that if you're looking 20 units and below, and I've seen a couple of them over the past couple of years, right? Not many, but it is someone that bought this in the 90s or the early 2000s. They've had it for 20, 30 years and they're done with it. But they've lived there, they were super there, and they didn't have to work. It like paid all their bills. Now it's a huge asset that they're looking to offload and go retire, right? So I think you can find those, especially around here. Like
definitely.
In these type of like metro areas, they're more common than not.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I just randomly thought of another thing that I love about just real estate in general. Like, dude, you talked about how your first deal was
disaster,
terrible, right? I've had my fair share of disaster deals as well. But it's funny, like how many people that I've spoken with that are like, yeah, man, I did this deal 10 years ago as my first rental and everything went wrong. Spent $100,000 more than I should have, dealt with all these headaches, all this bullshit. But here we are 10, 11, 12 years later. And it's like, dude, you're sitting on a couple $100,000 worth of equity. So it's like, if the worst case scenario still ends up with you making hundreds of thousands of dollars on a bad deal, dude, that's something that I want to be a part of.
I say it all the time to anyone that'll listen. Like, I think I'm a little too aggressive on rentals. I think that like I'm too broke all the time. I should but there's so many benefits, right?
Man.
Like even in awful, like the crash of '08, which I was not in real estate before, but like even in like downtimes, right? And you're still getting paid. You're like, as long as you're not over leveraged and you have like, that's why we try and stay below 70% on LTVs, because like if anything, if we did lose 30% overnight and banks come knocking, we're okay, right? Like I wish we had more cash reserves if they came at knocking at 60%, but
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is. But property values are going to increase over time, like no matter what. If you just look at all historical trends, like you go to Fred, like .gov, they look at historical trends. Rents are going to go up no matter what over time. So you have someone that is paying your property, your mortgage down. So you have depreciation. Someone's paying your mortgage down. You have tax benefits. Your property is increasing in value. Like the rents are going up. You hold it for 10, 15, 20 years, or hold it for 5 years. Who cares? But like it is just a tangible asset that goes up in value, and your profits increase over time. Like some of the properties we bought 7 years ago in Norristown, the amount of money we're making on them is just like, it doesn't make sense, you know? And it's just because we held them for 7 years, and it's Norristown, right? The rents there have doubled in the last 7 years, which like we just got lucky again. But like if you hold something long enough, rents are going to go up. And, you know, we have we're at 4.25% on that whole portfolio up there. So when that has to be refied in a year and a half or something like that, it'll hurt. But I can't say enough good things about it. There's so many positives.
Totally agree, man.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
You should be holding every third or fourth deal. Like figure out a way to keep it. Like, and you hear so many guys that are much more successful than we are, that have been in the game for a lot longer, that say, what's your biggest regret? I wish I kept more. Like everyone you talk to, I wish I kept more. I wish I kept more. Because there's a lot of money in it right now for whatever you're doing, like flipping, wholesale and stuff like that. But the long term, you know, you want to be able to sit on a beach and do nothing at 45.
Yep.
Hold a bunch of rentals.
Yep. Dude, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. And I do every now and then make myself sick and go back and look at some of the properties that I've wholesaled and everything. And it's like, yeah, man, shit. Even if I kept 10% of those properties, wow.
I think you specifically should identify a couple of zip codes that you are hot on, right? You see a lot of growth potential, and then keep every second or third one out of there, right? Or like every screaming deal you find, it's like a $50,000 assignment. Keep every other one of those. Still pay your or whatever it is, but like, because if it's a screaming deal for you, that means someone's going to pay you $50,000 over what you had before, and they're either going to rent it or they're going to flip it. So there's a ton of spread in that.
Yep.
Like, what are the long-term implications for, like, look at that property 10 years down the road? I don't know.
Yeah. Would have made a lot more money. So I'll tell you what my master plan was.
Oh, I didn't ask you. Yeah, let me hear what it was and what it is right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what it is. I don't know what I'm doing. But overall, like, if you asked me a year and a half ago, it's like my master plan really was to keep growing the wholesale company and try to not get distracted. Like, okay, maybe I pick up a flip or a rental, but I'm not putting any effort or focus into it. And if I do buy something, it's like, it's going to be like a home run deal or something that really matters to me, you know, but I don't want to figure out the construction business again until I have everything with the wholesale company at the level and scale that I want it to be, and kind of have all of my processes and operations running smoothly. Then once I get to that level, which for me, like I wanted to get to 300 deals, 365 deals a year,
there you
actually,
go. It's in the name.
on the wholesale company. And I was like, cool, once I get there, then I'm going to let off the throttle, and then I'll go back, and now I can focus on the construction side again. We still continue wholesaling 365 deals a year, but if it can run with only 20 hours a week of my attention, now I can put, because I'm a fucking lunatic, I can still put 40 to 60 hours a week into something else
new.
and actually focus on it and give it a real shot at being successful. And then I'll start to scale that, right? And whether that means flips or rentals at scale again, cool, I'll do that. Yeah. Didn't really get there and had a bunch of shit change, but that's what we do, you know? That was my master plan.
I think it's a good point you just made, though. Like, what is your boring, reliable thing? Like, what is something that you do very well, that you can continue to do very well, that pays the bills, that, you know, you can grow slow, fast, whatever, but like, you see a lot, myself included, right? When you see people all the time kind of like get distracted, like, hey, this is something that works. This is something I make a lot of money on, but like I'm going to spend 40 hours a week over here and let this dwindle at 20, where like make sure that your rock in like
You're focusing
your
in the right
boring
area.
stable
Yeah.
is there, and then focus on other things. And if this can cruise, you have the right team around you or whatever, like however that works, then move over here or capital, whatever it looks like. But I think it's a good point that kind of gets overlooked a lot of times. It's just if something, your boring, reliable business gets boring, that's a good thing.
It is, but I think every entrepreneur has that shiny
agree.
object syndrome
I
to
agree.
a large degree, not even a small degree. So
Yeah.
like it's a painful like discipline thing to be like, no, I'm going to do the boring shit
Yeah.
because that's what makes money.
Yeah. I think we're lucky because like right now, ramping up construction is a nightmare. It takes all of my
hard,
time, right? But at least to do that, the other things that we do, it's enveloped in it, right?
Right, right.
If I'm building this
I think
out,
that can be a trap though too, because it would be easy for me even last year when I was full steam ahead and we're getting to 300 deals a year. It was still easy for me to be like, well, dude, I've been around construction and building houses and flipping houses forever. It's like, well, construction is kind of already in our wheelhouse because we already have a bunch of guys that do maintenance for us on our rentals, like,
Sure.
so maybe we can leverage them a little bit more and be able to do one flip every month with them because it's in the same wheelhouse.
Yeah.
How much of that is like, but it's really not,
So, I swear to God, if you look on my like task list calendar, I just like downloaded Motion, this app. It is phenomenal. Like
Motion.
It's a task list, and then it like puts it in your calendar. So it's like $10 a month, but like it is awesome. I really like. You should take a look at it. If you look in my task list right now, I'm upset with one of my property managers, and it says, "Should I bring property management in house?" Like, no, I shouldn't. That would be a disaster. I would have to fit that out. I already know what it comes with. I already know what the headaches are. I think that I have a better relationship with tenants. I think we can handle the maintenance more. But like, what about all the back end stuff? What about like, how do you collect rent? How do you do this? Who's filing evictions? Like the lift that it takes to get there. It just, I saw it pop up. I'm mad at them like Monday. I saw it pop up today or yesterday or something like that. And I was just like, what idiot wrote that? Like, who would think that's a good idea with everything else going on right now? Like,
I can understand it though. It's like if you were looking at it across the board and okay, well, if we can do this and it's not going to, like if I already have a person in-house that I believe has the capacity and the ability to handle this, yeah, man, if we can save whatever, what are you paying property management a year?
So it depends, right? So some are flat rates, some are like $119 a rental, and they move with scale. Philadelphia is at 8%, and then Norristown's at 7%. So like it floats all around, but it's a lot of money. Like don't
How
get me wrong.
many units do you have?
So like getting close to 100.
Getting closer. So you got to be spending over $100,000 a year in property management.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, man. Like I've heard plenty of guys at CG and other groups say that it's like, well, once you're at that threshold, it kind of does make sense to bring it in-house. Now, I totally understand you got other things you got to focus on because it would take mental energy to get it off the ground. But
here's my other mental hurdle is that like, I hate property management so much. Like it is.
I know. I think
it's my least favorite thing in the world to do. And I think I would have to, I don't know how hands-on I could be with that. And starting up a new company, like even if it was only in-house, we didn't touch anyone else's units. Like we were only managing our own stuff.
And even if you have a rock star doing it, you're still holding their hand for months and
Without
doing
a
shit
doubt,
you
right?
hate.
Like,
So I get that.
You have to figure it out.
Yep.
And then you have to train someone to take over. And then you have to make sure all the processes stay in place. And then like, what else is that taken away from? And it's not something that gives me energy. You know, like
I totally
construction,
understand.
rentals, flips. I love it. Like I don't mind setting up Simply Safe at 8 p.m. Like it's just like, it's cool. I love being in the house. It's whatever. I don't know.
I get it.
I agree.
you're totally doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Screw it. Yeah.
I've heard like Jimmy Reeland, he was like, well, get to like close to the 125, 150, you got to bring it in house. Like Eric BRRRR was like, I couldn't get away from it fast enough, right? Like, so I'm definitely on the,
Depends, yeah.
I don't want to deal with it, right? So it's something that is in the back of your head all the time where it's like, it saves a lot of money. But you still have your costs and the margins are really low. And if you're going to manage for other people, like that's a whole nother headache because now you're dealing with tenants and clients. Like, ugh.
That's a whole nother level of insanity to want to do that,
I know.
man.
And like, I don't know if you've met a lot of landlords, but they can be demanding.
Oh, yeah.
Myself included.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So like,
I'm more chill, but my wife is on top of it. That's why she handles it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm too chill. I'm too laid back on it, you know? So that point about stealing your mental energy, though, dude, I think about that all the time. Like, I know that I told you this story about how I had a wire transfer for 25 grand go to the wrong fucking person.
Yeah.
And it sounds absolutely insane to people. And we did. We tried like hell to get it back, and it just wasn't happening. But I knew to like actually go balls to the wall and pursue the crap out of it and file lawsuits and do all this stuff, that it would steal so much of like my mental energy and put me almost like immediately into a shitty mental state.
Right.
It's like, dude, that's going to cost me way more than $25,000. Like,
100%.
it's just not worth it, you know? And I thought the same thing before about situations with whatever sellers or investors where it's like, there's some sort of situation where it's like, dude, we could definitely sue you and we're absolutely going to win. We're in the right, you're in the wrong, and you're a shithead and you deserve to go down.
Yeah.
But I don't even want to put myself through that because I know how to kind of control my mental state.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. I think that's like, once you learn how to do that, it changes the game. Like your motivation level is up, your productivity is up. Like if you're not dealing with stuff that you hate to do, it changes everything. Like we don't file evictions, we don't do ejectments, we don't do property management because like, I know it's just going to suck me dry. Like it'll drain all of my energy and I won't be able to put that towards things
to do the shit that you're good at and make money with,
enjoy, right? Like when you spend all your time in the weeds with stuff that you hate, like you're not motivated to do the stuff that you love. I mean, the stuff that you love most of the time makes you a lot of money.
Yep. Yeah. Totally agree, man. Totally agree. It's massive.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. You love rentals so much. So why do you flip some stuff? Like what is the financial breakdown where you're like, all right, I'm going to flip this versus I'm going to keep it as a rental?
I mean, it's a good question. It changes. Sometimes it's the zip code in the area, right? There's some areas we just don't want to hold rentals in. There's like some pockets of Philadelphia and Camden where it's just like I don't want to buy rentals in Whitman Park in Camden, right? Like it's just like somewhere I don't want to invest. And we will flip. Camden market is like almost doubled in the past 18 months. It's crazy what's going on over there. Like it's wild. So we will do wholesales over there and get them back on the market. So one is definitely like a zip code area situation. The other is cash flow needs, right? Like how many rentals did we buy? Did I need to put 20% down on every single one? We really try and float renovation for every job to keep our interest costs down. So like we also want to have float money for all that. Like we want to have money in the coffers because what happens if something pops up? It needs to close in a couple of days, right? Like we need to have money. So it's mostly zip codes and financial reasons.
Got it.
And, flips are fun.
Now everybody knows you're a fucking lunatic, man. Flips are fun. I have a love-hate relationship with them, too.
I absolutely love like, we have a SKU list for our rentals. Like, every single thing in every single rental is the same. I could walk into a house and probably give you...
You sound like a project manager, man.
I'm telling you. I could give you a plus or minus 10% on what that's going to cost and how many days it's going to take and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's still fine, right? Like, we can go in, bang them out. We have, like, our Gantt charts and our project pipelines, and that's fun. That's great. But, like, flips are different. Like, you get to get a little creative with the color designs and the light fixtures and, like, all that little stuff. And it's also... I kind of like getting more deep in it. We just did one where we had to do a sewer reversal. We had to dig the street up. It was a new roof. It was a full rewire, full replumb. Like we did absolutely everything in this house. And that's, to me, it's just fun, right? Like, it's a little bit different. There's a lot of moving parts. Like, as long as your budget's there, where, thereabouts, it's different, you know? And it's something, again, that we're good at, that we can figure out. We have a lot of great subs. We have a lot of good in-house guys. So things that can get lost in translation or get missed, someone will pick it up, right? It's not going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
But they're different. They're fun. Every once in a while, you look at a house and it's like, well, this is almost too nice to be a rental. So, like, let's flip it.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man, the number one thing that I hate about flipping, and it goes for rentals as well, is township bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's related to permits or regulations, like I told you in this building, all the ADA requirements and everything. The actual construction side, dude, I don't care. Like, I think I could happily swing a hammer for 100 hours a week and be good, you know? Right. But I hate all this stuff and the moving target with different town, like in the counties and everything. It's like different rules and regulations from town to town. It's like we flip the house in this town, then we're doing one town over.
Right. It's in the
and
same
it's like the inspector,
right?
same township,
county,
and the inspector's like, nah, man, like, well, we've had some ridiculous things, like as simple as outlets, you know, with the ground being on top or the bottom.
Right.
We've had inspectors tell us, like, no, ground has to be on the top. It's like, okay, well, yeah, cool, that's what it says. And then we go to the next town over, and they're like, nope, flip them all over, dude. Yeah. It's like, are you kidding me, man?
That's not what they said over there.
Are you kidding me? Like, I hate all of that stuff, but I do love the construction side and the creativity part.
So the good thing, our subs, again, they're phenomenal, and they can pull permits. I'm not saying that we always pull permits. If there's any inspectors watching, we always pull permits. Always
pull permits. I don't think any inspectors are watching this.
Everything's to code all the time. But so the subs, they
know how to navigate it for you anyway.
Ex-union guys, they give us great prices because we keep them super busy. So, like, they know what they're doing. Roofer the same way. Like, our plumbers, they're phenomenal. They pull permits for everything, even when we ask them not to, right? Like, that's just what they do, and their prices are good. Like, our HVAC guy, same thing. Like, he gets inspections rough and final on everything, even when we say you don't have to do that. Like, it's all included. A lot of them are flat fees depending on square footage. So we work with great subs. And then for us on the rental side, we have a checklist for every township that we work in, right? So, like, the UNO checklist for Norristown is different than the CO checklist in Camden, which is different than the UNO checklist in Philadelphia. Not that we ever get a UNO in Philadelphia unless it's Section 8, but every one of those is different. And, like, they are catered to that. So we write up a full scope. It gets delivered to site on day one. So our renovation is we buy the house. Day one, the demo crew is in there. Day two, our guys are in there. They're spackling, they're painting. If there's any mechanicals or heavy, rewires or any of that stuff, demo crew will pull ceilings down and stuff like that. And then we get 2 weeks of subs. And then cosmetic guys go in there. The second day, cosmetic team's in there. All materials are delivered. The kitchen's already ordered. So, like, we, like, streamline all of it, even if it's a flip. Like, that's just kind of, like, the way that it all breaks down. And so I just think that, like, that all helps with keeping costs down and everything like that.
Absolutely, man. And I think, I wonder, do you realize, because just with you going through that there, do you realize, like, how much your project management, has molded you into who you are today?
Without a doubt. Like, there's
because it's like,
no question.
You got your crap ironed out, man.
Like, you should see well, I saw you a little earlier with your folder structures and everything.
Yeah.
But, like,
dude, I'm crazy with it.
It's important. It's super important. But, like, every single job has a SKU list. It has a scope. It has everything's delivered. Like, windows, everything is delivered or ordered day one, delivered day 3. It's all there. Because one thing that you kind of lose sight of is that, say you have 2 guys. We're running 2 guy cosmetic crews, and they have to go to Home Depot. So they both go. Now, they leave. Home Depot is 30 minutes away. They stop and get lunch. Then they go to Home Depot. So 30 minutes to get lunch, 30 minutes for lunch, 30 minutes in Home Depot, 30 minutes to get back, 15 minutes to get low. We're 2 guys. Nobody's working for 3.5 hours. What if that happens 3 times a week?
Yep.
Right? Like, that's a lot of missed work, right? That
Yep.
extends your timeline. You're still paying them a day rate or whatever, hourly, doesn't matter. But like you're still paying them for all the time that they're in the car, shooting the shit, hanging out. So if materials are delivered or they're all in a garage, it's easy. Boom, boom. We're going to and from. Only one person goes. Like, so that was another thing we just recently did to try and like slow down or reduce the amount of trips to depot, right? So like everything, aside from consumables, like we'll get a bucket of, spackle delivered or tape or whatever, but if they need 12 wire or they need what PEX or whatever, like they're going to go to depot and get that stuff. But everything else is delivered to site.
So I know you were telling me about that company. What was it called? Renovating or something? Weren't you using them? Mm-hmm. No? Maybe it was,
So we just use depot. Like if you spend enough at depot, you get a concierge service. So like that SKU list that I have, that's like almost the same for every single job. I just like, if I put a number in, it highlights orange. I send it to them. They get it delivered within 48 hours for free. Like
I love that.
They handle everything. And that's the other beauty of the standardized SKU list is that there's no thought. Like I don't have to pick out a light everywhere. I don't have to make sure this, like you do with flips. But like every faucet's the same. Every light fixture, every vanity, every piece of flooring, everything is identical.
Massive,
it's just like the mental energy. We were kind of like, it's so much less for me. I don't have to go through and try and find the same thing. The SKU list has the name of it. It has the internet SKU number, the in-store SKU number, and then it has a link to the website where you click that, it pulls it up. So
dude,
you just send it to them.
That's massive. Like, and it's so easy to overlook. Like, it sounds so simple and everything, but when you don't follow it, and I got lazy on a couple of our rentals in the last couple of years that it's like, yeah, man, we always had like a standard paint color we use for trim and a standard color for the walls and a standard color for the ceilings and everything else, right? And then we had a couple times where it's like, oh, well, we have 6 leftover faucets from projects where, so we use them, and it's like your standardization kind of starts going away. And then, okay, our maintenance guy did a turnover and he used some paint that he had rather than what our stuff. Now we got to touch up a spot on. Now we're repainting the whole thing.
100%.
It's like, don't deviate.
Yeah,
don't deviate.
And use flat interior because you can match flat. You can't match eggshell and semi and stuff like that. So we're right now, we buy a lot of stuff in bulk, like paint and trim and drywall and stuff, and leave it in the garage. And we have way too much paint. And winter's coming, and that garage is not heated. I'm going to have a bunch of frozen, I'm going to have thousands of dollars of 5-gallon buckets that I can't use. Or
you got to buy some more stuff, man.
I know, that's right.
Man.
Got to use that paint.
Or put some heat in there.
Or put a heater in there.
You could do that.
I could.
Hearing you say HVAC earlier, that made me think. So if you're buying something, rehabbing it, and intending to keep it as a rental, and it's in a Camden, Norristown, Philly, whatever, lower class neighborhood, are you still putting in forced air heat, or are you always doing like electric baseboards?
Forced air. So no HVAC, but forced air.
Okay.
We will keep radiators if they're there, depending on the age of the heating unit. If it's over 10 years old, we're probably going to pull it out and put ductwork in and all that fun stuff. Just the maintenance alone is, those old radiators pop all the time. They leak all the time. We've had so many issues with them. We are down to 2 oil heat houses.
Okay.
But we bought them with brand new oil heaters. Just didn't make sense, but they are an absolute nightmare. I think we only have like 3 HVAC houses that like with the condenser outside. And those are just, they just came with it, right? But again, it's
but you're not putting them in.
Increased
but
maintenance.
Not like electric baseboards. You don't like electric baseboards.
No. So for Section 8, it eats into your monthly profit because it's so expensive. So if they have their voucher and the voucher includes utilities, then you have to pay the utilities. An electric baseboard is very expensive.
Got it.
Electric baseboard hurts appraisal values. So like we hate that. There's not a lot of good that comes from it. It's cheap. It's easy. Like, especially if you're rewiring a house and there's like no heating there, you can get away with it. It's like 2-story row and like a 2-bed 2-story row in a shitty neighborhood like Kensington, like fine, whatever. But we really try and shy away from it unless it's a one-off and like a bump out in the back of a house that we're not going to run a duct out there. We're not going to run a radiator line. Yeah, right. So like,
do that.
But we shy away. There's not a lot of positives. And then we used to put microwaves and dishwashers in all of our houses. And then, again, maintenance. So now it's hood vents, and we still do garbage disposals. But
Really?
like,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
And we're reevaluating if we want to do that, right? So
I understand.
a lot of that's like the amount of calls you get from the dishwasher not working, and it's just like you gotta pop the filter out,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's gotta get clean, so it does work. But did you try that? Yeah, I tried it. You get there, no. So there's not a lot of upside in appraisal value to justify the maintenance costs for a dishwasher.
Totally
the microwaves are fine, whatever. But
Yeah,
they're
pretty low maintenance.
They are.
I think the only thing that I've ever had with a microwave is the light bulb went out. All right, cool, we can handle that.
It's not a big deal.
Yep.
We've had a lot of doors get ripped off, and it's like, well, I guess
That's mind blowing. Yeah, I have that all the time. By the way, it's like, how did you rip the door off of the hinges?
Yeah, I know.
It's insanity.
Just like, well,
man.
I don't know. I guess you're gonna have to get one on the countertop now because that's broken.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Totally crazy. But I love it, man. Is there anything that you would like to share with people that want to start buying rentals?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you first start out, working with someone that's done it before is always very helpful. Or learning from someone that's done it before is very helpful. If you look at a single family home rental transaction, there's so many steps, right? Like from purchase and title and funding and renovation and tenants and townships and refinances and like that is it's a daunting process. And you can absolutely fight your way through it. And you can absolutely, do all of that. I think having someone that can kind of hold your hand through 1, 2, 3 of them is very helpful. I think like we've talked about coaching being a great thing and stuff like that. I still don't have any coaching, but like it's something that I think works without a doubt. So I think that would be very helpful. I think start in lower income areas because you can make more mistakes when the prices are lower. It doesn't hurt you as bad. If you buy a $40,000 house in Camden and you do a $30,000 renovation that costs you $40,000, and you're only leaving $15,000 in the deal, but you still get it refinanced and you still have a cash flow. It's different than buying a $120,000 house you do the same thing with, and now maybe it doesn't cash flow the way you thought it was, and your holding costs, again, interest costs every single month.
Man.
Like you're paying those to your lender, or your lender is taking your house. So de-risk as much as possible. Like if you're trying to get into this, it's the best. I highly recommend it. I think it's like I quit my W-2 job, I want to say like 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and it's the best thing I ever did. I can't say enough good things. If you have a W-2, like maybe do it while you're like be a weekend warrior or team up with someone that is doing it and like be that financial backer and learn that way. But de-risk as much as possible on the front end. Like I think it's very easy to try and hit home runs every time because you see people on social media or you see a check or you talk to someone that says they're killing it. But like, one, they might not be. And two, it's okay to hit a single. We normally hit singles, right? Like very rarely do we hit home runs. So that's the other thing. Like take it slow, right? Like there's, even to this day, we run way too fast until we get slapped in the face. And luckily we have the experience and the resources to dig ourselves out of a hole, but you can very easily on your first couple deals get yourself into a situation where you're getting foreclosed on, right? I think Steve Trang said his first rental ever got foreclosed on, and he's an absolute rock star, right? So just be careful.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that advice. And obviously we are both proponents of being part of mastermind groups, like mentorship. Like I hired a mentor right when I first started and everything. It was $5,000. I was 21 years old and I didn't have the money. Like I had the money, but I didn't really have the money. It was like, that was all that I had to my name, and I was pretty damn confident anyway that I didn't really need this mentor. It's like, dude, I already read like 20 books and I'm full of, belief and everything in myself. And I'm like, I don't really need it, but I did it anyway. Because even being young, dumb, and naive, I also knew that spending $5,000 to de-risk when I'm going into something, it's like, dude, big transactions, right? If I'm buying something for $100,000 and my rehab's $100,000 and I mess something up, like it could be really easy to lose $50,000 by making one mistake.
It's like,
you know,
having someone you did the walkthrough. Did you look at the joists? Because that is a house that's in the middle of nowhere. It's prone to moisture and termites. Like, you should re-inspect it again. Like, that piece of information is invaluable because it could be, like you said, making $50,000 or losing $50,000. And if you lose $50,000 and it sinks you, you're never doing it again.
You're done. You're out.
Like you're out of the game.
And even if it doesn't wipe you out financially, it's going to wipe you out mentally and emotionally, and you're never going to want to touch it again. Exactly. You're just out. You're checked out.
Say you do have 75 in the bank and you can lose that 50. It's not a big deal. You're never going to be in real estate again. That is a scar for your first transaction. That is a scarring situation. You know, like I agree with you. Like if you can find someone to help you out a little bit, I think that's very important. And then also just the de-risk as much as possible. Like there's 3 deals you can choose from. Pick the cheapest, easiest one. Done and done.
I love that. You know, I've known and met a bunch of people over the years, and most people, like when I tell them how much like mentorship and mastermind groups and self-education that I've done, most people are like, okay, well, that's cool. That makes sense. It makes sense with the trajectory that you're on and what you've done and everything. But there's still a fair amount of haters that are like, oh, that's stupid. I would never pay for like, there's so much free information out there. It's like, all right, dude, you know, cheers to you. You go do that and everything. And usually they're also the people that are never actually doing anything,
of course.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to make that point that don't be like, I don't know, for anybody listening, like, don't be turned off by any haters that are like, oh, well, it's stupid to invest in a course or a program or a mentor or a mastermind. It's like, dude, I still to this day spend easily $50,000 a year on myself and masterminds and training and stuff. And I've already done a lot of things, you know, and you still continue to do it.
I agree. We're both in masterminds. My team gets sales trainings, like spend a lot of money on self-improvement. The other thing is like, there's a lot of free education out there, but is it specific to what you're doing today or next week? Like if you can Google whatever and figure out an answer to your specific issue with someone that's been through it before, or someone that knows a bunch of people and one of them has been through it before. And it's like, if they can't answer it or talk to them and get you the answer, they can introduce you to someone to be like, hey, you know what, just talk to so-and-so because they told me a year ago they just went through this. It was a nightmare. Like, boom, done.
Exactly.
I wish that I would have done it earlier. I think that I would have avoided a lot of mistakes. I think we would have grown a lot faster. I think we would be in a much better place right now if we would have done it earlier.
Yep. But having known that, you just keep on the path you're on and keep dumping money into education.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
But so if somebody reached out to you right now and they wanted you to kind of like coach, hold their hand through their first deal, their first flip, their first rental, I know we've talked about it before, like, would you either be interested in that or have the capacity?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like, I love it, right? So,
I know. Yeah.
I do it all the time with team members and friends and, just like literally random people I meet at like meetups. Like, hey, yeah, I'd love to help you out. I really do have, I enjoy it.
Because it fires you up. Yeah,
it does.
I totally understand.
It gives me a lot of energy. I really like to help people. I really like to be involved. I really enjoy that aspect of it because we've made so many mistakes. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to be like, oh, I remember being there. Like, dude, this is a lot of fun, bro. Like, you're going to learn a lot. Like, this is going to be dope. Like, let me help.
So cool.
I love it.
So cool. Well, I want to encourage anybody that made it this far in to reach out to you about mentorship, man, because I think you would be wonderful at that. And I wish that, a lot of my mentors early on, they weren't as far as you are, right? Like, it would be awesome to have somebody with your head on your shoulders holding my hand when I started, right? So, yeah, I think that would be a really cool thing for you, but that might also be shiny object syndrome. So I don't know. You got to balance that, right?
Can't be 100 people, right?
Can't be 100. Yeah. Can't be 100. Is there anything else you want to share with the guests today?
I think that's it, man. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
I'm glad you came.
First podcast. This was fantastic.
I think you did wonderful.
Thank you.
And, we'll have to bring you back next year and review if you stayed on course with, that game plan.
I can tell you, I did not.
Spoiler alert, didn't do it. Ryan, thank you. So wait, real quick. I know you're not super huge on social and you don't love it, but you're on there. Where can people find you? Instagram, Facebook? Facebook.
And then I have an email. That's about it. So
Facebook. All right.
Good, yeah.
We got to get you up on your social media game.
Yeah,
we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
This is going to be the start of it, right? Because you're going to have so much content and everything.
Wow, yeah.
You're going to have to be posting all of it and everything.
I'll get it all out there.
I'm telling you, man.
Great.
I'm telling you. Ryan, thanks so much.
Cool. Thanks, Lana.
Boom.